Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Stand Back. This version is arranged and performed by the Allman Brothers tribute group, The Other Brothers, who will be coming to Netherlands to perform very, very soon. Stay tuned to this episode to learn more about that upcoming show. To hear the full recording of this performance, be sure to head to BillMcKayMusic.com. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. Today, I'm bringing you the first part of last week's Music of the Mountains Spotlight. I have not been able to get the interviews out, and I'm still in the process of editing a couple of them. So, today, you're getting the first of two parts, and I hope to have the second part out by tomorrow. Before we get into today's interview, though, a couple of preliminary announcements. If you haven't subscribed to The Mountaineer yet and you're looking to get news from peak to peak, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and click on the subscribe button in the top right corner of our homepage. If you subscribe today, you'll get full access to our digital archive and scanned copies of the physical newspaper. And you can choose to send a physical subscription to your mailbox or the mailbox of someone that you love. If you're interested in getting advertising into the paper and or the podcast, then be sure to email our editor-in-chief, Barbara Hart, at info@themountaineer.com and or myself at media@themountaineer.com to learn what options are available. You can also head to the mtnear.com/advertise. We're looking for more voices to join us for the Mountaineer Podcast Season 5. So if you're interested in joining or being featured in the podcast, then be sure to email info@themountaineer.com and or media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. And finally, promotional announcements brought to you by the Mountaineer.
Looking for a unique advertising opportunity? The Mountaineer Podcast may be a perfect fit for you. Our podcast reaches local listeners at least 3 days each week. We can create your podcast commercial for you, or you can submit your own. Contact Amanda McDonald for additional information. Her email is adsales@themountaineer.com, and her cell is 720-960-2900. Have you checked out the Mountaineer YouTube lately? We are very excited to have a videographer intern this spring, as well as Clementine Miller, who's been working hard to record some of our local events and meetings to share with you. Go check it out on the Mountaineer YouTube. Have you seen our 2024 Peak to Peak Visitors Guide? We have just launched our 2025 Media Kit for the next guide. Go to our website and click on Advertise to see the full media kit there. Spring is springing, and we all know that means the flowers will be popping out all over the place, reminding us of beautiful art. That also means it's time to start thinking about the 2025 studio tour. Go to our website and click on special sections to view the 2024 guide and prepare yourself for this year's edition.
All right, now let's get into today's interview. Our guest this time around, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
I'm Bill McKay, I'm a keyboard player and singer-songwriter. I've been living in Colorado for about 35 years now, and gosh, maybe a little longer than that. Yeah, and I'm speaking today on behalf of one of the many bands I'm in called The Other Brothers, which is our Allman Brothers tribute, I guess you call tribute band. We play all Allman Brothers music.
It's great to talk to you, Bill, and I'm excited to promote The Other Brothers performing at the Caribou Room very soon. How did The Other Brothers get started in the first place?
Well, my partner in the band, James Dumm, who's a guitar player, it was his idea originally. He had a band, an Allman Brothers Band, a while back. I don't remember the name, Mountain Jam maybe, and it was a bunch of Denver musicians, and they just played locally. But he had the idea to put together this kind of all-star lineup and do Allman Brothers music. And gosh, I don't know how many years we're going on now. I guess 5 years, 6 years, something like that, maybe even a little longer. And we just did a couple of small kind of local Denver shows and felt it out. I had never really intended on diving into an Allman Brothers project, but once we did a few shows, I personally got just so inspired. I mean, everybody in the band got very inspired, and I personally just got really blown away and inspired by embracing the music on that level. So it was James's brainchild, and once we started going with it, we all got more and more inspired. And as time went on, we really only played a few shows a year because it's an all-star lineup of people that are all very busy. Some people in some major touring acts, and just everybody has a lot on their plate. But I started to get so inspired by it, and just in this climate right now where there's a big appreciation for the Allman Brothers music going on right now, and with Dickie Betts' passing a little over a year ago, I decided to look into getting us an actual booking agent so we could actually try to play more often. And that's where we're at currently, which entails having to modify the lineup a little bit here and there if everybody's not fully available. So we have kind of a core band, and then we have some subs that can come and go if need be.
The previous tribute group that James played in, Mountain Jam, is of course named after an Allman Brothers song. So who is a part of the core lineup of the group?
Well, the main core lineup is a 7-piece band, and it's me and James Dumm on electric and slide guitar, and Rob Eaton Jr. on electric guitar, who lives up in Vail. He's the son of Rob Eaton, who is one of the guitar players for the Dark Star Orchestra, and Todd Smallie on bass, who is a dear friend of mine, and me and Todd go way back. Me and Todd both played together in the Derek Trucks Band in the late 90s. I was in the Derek Trucks Band for about 5 years in the late 90s, and I toured and spent an ungodly amount of time with Todd, musically and personally. So he's a very old friend of mine, and he's just one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. And then normally, if we're able to get the full core band together, we have 3 drummers, 2 drummers and percussion. We have Will Trask on percussion, and Mark Levy on drums, and John Michel on drums. Will is a Denver-based guy who plays with a bunch of different bands. He's a great drummer and great percussionist. Mark Levy, also based in the Denver area. His main touring act is a band called Circles Around the Sun. And John Michel is based up in the Aspen-Carbondale area, and his resume is something to behold. He's been playing for a long, long time all over the world with many big-name acts, and currently is on tour often with the John Oates Band from Hall & Oates. And he's done a lot of work with John Oates over the years, as well as top players, too numerous to mention. So that's the core band that we have. And I was lucky enough to have just about all. That 7-piece, by the way, reflects sort of the later stages of the Allman Brothers when they had Mark Canones on percussion in addition to the 2 drummers in the 90s leading up to the end of their run. For the Caribou Room, Will is the only one that's not available. So we'll still have our 2 drummers, Mark and John, and the rest of the lineup that I just mentioned.
Well, what about you, Bill? How did you get started in music in the first place?
Well, I've been a musician literally my entire life. I started singing in church choirs when I was 6 or 7 years old, actually as a boy soprano in a church choir up in New York where I grew up, before my voice even changed. And I started playing piano around the age of 6. My first band in high school up in New York was a Grateful Dead cover band that I played in. I was playing in bars in New York when I was about 13, 14, 15 years old. And the drinking age was only 18 at that time in New York. I only had to pass for 18, so it was a little easier for me to get away with playing in the bars around Westchester County, New York. And then I moved to Colorado and went to college, went to Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and I had a band in college called The Circle, which we did a lot of playing and stuff like that. And then after graduating, I moved to Boulder and joined a band called Band Du Jour, which was a really hot Boulder-based band. We were a 6-piece band that toured all over the country, actually to some other countries as well. Kind of a Little Feat sounding kind of band, Allman Brothers, Little Feat. A lot of original material. We had 5 lead singers and 5 people that wrote original material. So we were sort of the house band at the Fox Theater when it first opened in the early 90s. We used to play Tulagis. We used to play J.J. McKay's in Boulder. And Band Du Jour hit the road for about 5 years. It toured a lot. And then I joined a very young Derek Trucks after that. And I moved to Atlanta for about 5 years, which was where the band was based and managed out of. And I played in the Derek Trucks band for 5 years and recorded on 3 or 4 albums, toured all over the place. Very wonderful, challenging, enlightening musical period of my life with some of the greatest musicians, Todd Smallie and Jan Rico Scott on drums, who has since passed, was a dear friend of mine. And later on, Kofi Burbridge, who also has passed, who was a dear friend of mine, joined. So we were a 5-piece for a little while. And then around the year 2000, I had left Derek Trucks and I was still in Atlanta trying to figure out what to do with myself. And I got a call from my old friends in Colorado, the Leftover Salmon. And I ended up through some twists and turns coming back to Colorado and joining Leftover Salmon, which I then proceeded to play with for the next 11 years, touring all over the country, a couple records, lots of festivals, and many, many miles and exciting times with Leftover Salmon for 11 years. And then after that, I was in a band called Coral Creek, which is a friend of mine named Chris Thompson, based out of Golden. We were another kind of jam grass, bluegrass-based unit that I still do some gigs here and there with them, and I recorded on a couple albums with that band. But all throughout that, I've always done a lot of solo stuff. In the last 5 to 10 years, I've concentrated a lot more on solo piano gigs around Colorado, everything from small restaurants and bars to bigger shows, singer-songwriter type things, as well as a whole bunch of bands. And I've always had a Bill McKay band. I've always had my own band that can either be built from a trio, 4-piece, 5-piece, sometimes with a horn section, 6 or 7-piece. And I do a lot of local gigs with Bill McKay band when I'm able to. I'm also in a band called Johnny and the Mongrels, which is a great soul funk unit based out of the Fort Collins area. And I've played my entire life with my brother John McKay, who is a Colorado singer-songwriter. He actually lived in Nederland and in Rollinsville for a long time. My roots stretch back to Rollinsville and Nederland over the last 30 years. I've had a lot of connections to up there. So me and my brother John still play gigs. In fact, I'm playing with him tonight down in Denver at a little place called Joe Willie's. So I still play gigs with my brother John, sometimes in his band, but oftentimes just as a duo. And gosh, yeah, I'm trying to think. I do a lot of gigs. Well, not a lot, but I occasionally play with my old friend Dave Watts in one of his Dave Watts and Friends versions. I go back with Dave about 30 years as well. So there's actually, I'm playing part of the Nederland concert series later this summer as a double bill with Bill McKay Band and Dave Watts and Friends, where I'll be playing with both bands. I think that's in August sometime.
By the way, for date context, the tonight is April 25th, 2025. I can confirm that double bill show of Dave Watts and Friends and the Bill McKay Band will be the final performance as part of the 2025 Netherlands Summer Concert Series. It will be hosted in Chipeta Park on Saturday, August 16th, starting at 4 p.m. For more information about the lineup of the entire concert series, be sure to head to sweetwaveaudio.com/Netherland-concert-series. I wanted to talk about some of the other groups that you guys have performed in over the years. So you toured with the Derek Trucks Band with another member who is now a part of this band?
Todd Smallie, the bass player. Yeah, so me and Todd go way back. We were in the Derek Trucks Band together I was in the Derek Trucks Band from 95 to 2000. And Todd was one of the first people I connected with when I moved to Atlanta to join that band. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about the scene. And over those years, I became a big part of the Atlanta music scene during that time period. And also through Derek and his family, became involved with the extended Allman Brothers family and got to experience a whole lot of that as well. But yeah, me and Todd go way back. Todd Smallie currently plays with J.J. Gray and Mofro, so he is on the road a lot. So generally Todd is the one, unfortunately, that we have to sub out on bass quite often. And our good friend Jiho Han is going to be playing a bunch of bass for us over the next few months. However, Todd is on this Caribou Room gig. So yeah, that's who I played with in the Derek Trucks Band.
Technically speaking, the Derek Trucks Band is currently on hiatus, as Derek Trucks himself and his wife, Susan Tedeschi, have since formed a separate group, the Tedeschi Trucks Band. The last album released under the Derek Trucks Band name, Already Free, won the Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Blues Album at the 52nd Grammy Awards. Todd Smallie contributed his bass playing to the album. I also saw that one of the other Brothers members is also currently a member of the High Hawks.
Will Trask, that's right. I was trying to remember all the different bands that everybody was in. Will Trask, who often plays percussion or drums, depending on how the lineup plays out for individual gigs. That's correct. He is in the High Hawks as well. Unfortunately, Will not be with us at the Caribou Room. He had some other engagements he was already previously indisposed. But yes, Will is in the High Hawks. Yep.
I also wanted to talk about your brother John really quickly, because when you mentioned your brother's name, it threw me a little bit. Of course, John McKay is a different person from John McVeigh, but that name has been cemented in my head as a local producer and engineer who has worked with 4 acts that I've brought onto this podcast: Yonder Mountain String Band, Bonnie and Taylor Sims, Gasoline Lollipops, and Finn O'Sullivan. I couldn't help but laugh internally at how similar the names were, but I think it's really cool that you and your brother have been able to perform music together over all this time.
Yeah, my brother John, like I said, we go way back. John and me have been good friends with Peter Fiore, for example, who owns the Caribou Room, for a long, long time. I mean, over 30 years. I think John even lived with him at one point way, way, way back. So we have long, long ties to Nederland and Rollinsville and the Caribou Room. But yeah, my brother John was a Nederland and Rollinsville local for a long, long time.
So as a group, why have you all decided to focus on playing Allman Brothers music?
Well, like I said, even though I had been involved with the extended Allman Brothers family and found myself very close to them through being with Derek years ago. In fact, we got to open for the Greg Allman Band on a couple tours. I got to sit in with Greg a few times, and Derek's uncle Butch, was one of the founding drummers. So I had always been very close to the music and this and that, but I never really had any intention of playing it. I didn't even really cover much Allman Brothers in all my various other projects. Oh yeah, just to go back, another band that I'm in occasionally is Steely Dead, which is my good friend Dave Hebert. But they tour often. They're on tour right now. They tour as a 4-piece, and I come in as a second keyboard player for some of the bigger local shows. We also do the Very Jerry Band, which is all JGB-oriented stuff. So just add 2 more bands to my list of people I play with. But that being said, personally, I'd never really wanted to do the Allman Brothers thing because I had a certain reverence and respect for it, having been so close to it and always being a huge fan and having seen the Allman Brothers live many, many times over their career. But that being said, when Greg Allman passed, it started to leave sort of a gap where a lot of people wanted to hear the music. And I found myself extremely inspired sitting into the role of Greg Allman in this Allman Brothers cover band, tribute band, whatever you want to call it. And I found myself with this deep reverence, and we just got really inspired. This lineup got together, and the power and inspiration that we all brought to the music was just too much to ignore. And so it really just came about out of just offhandedly playing a few gigs. And then we started to realize, well, this is really something. And we're paying this music an incredible tribute because everybody in the band comes from various different musical backgrounds, but we all sort of meet in this common ground of this Allman Brothers music, the power, the improvisational aspect of it, and the deep respect that we all have for it. And so when I bring myself to it, I come with a deep reverence and a deep respect for Greg and for everything that they stood for. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't something I was looking for. It wasn't something I was searching out. And now that we find ourselves doing it, I can't help but just be so blown away every time we get on stage together. I've found the need, like I said, to search out a booking agent and get the band in front of more and more people because I just feel like we're one of the best bands going.
And as you've talked about, a few of you guys have been connected and even performed with members of the Allman Brothers Band. How has that influenced how you perform the music?
Yeah, I mean, Todd goes way back with Derek and the extended Allman family. I mean, he was already in that scene when I first came on board with a very young Derek Trucks. But over those years, I got to be around them all quite a bit. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be asked to come jump on stage with a couple of Greg Allman and Friends shows throughout a couple tours that we did. And yeah, I got to play on stage with him, which was really a treat, and to be around him. I mean, he was an intense and powerful personality. He was a great guy, and he was super sweet to us, but he carried himself with a certain gravitas that was very important. And like I said, I never in any way ever intended to emulate him. I don't go into this Other Brothers thing trying to be Greg Allman. I don't try to sound like him. I just do what I do, and it does the music justice.
And in regards to you, Bill, do you prefer playing on your own or playing with a group? Are there pros and cons to both?
I haven't. I don't hold anything above anything else. I feel really blessed on a daily basis, and I say prayers of gratitude every single morning of my life that I'm able to wake up and be a part of music. I consider the music to be very sacred and spiritual, and to tap into a universal human consciousness that is really powerful. And so I appreciate being able to play solo piano gigs. If I'm in a corner of a little restaurant and I'm playing for a few people eating dinner, I carry that with as much respect and reverence as I do playing in front of 20,000 people. I feel very blessed to be able to do all of it. I love playing my original material, so I do like playing in my trio or my four-piece Bill McKay band because I do get to focus on a lot more of my original material. But all the bands I've been in that I mentioned, I wrote material for those bands as well. So with Derek and with Leftover Salmon, I was playing some of my original stuff, and also in Coral Creek, I played most of my original stuff. But at the same time, if I playing Grateful Dead music or Jerry Garcia music, I have a deep reverence and respect. I'm an old Deadhead myself, so I love being there. I love being on stage and being more of a backup keyboard player where I'm not even necessarily singing, maybe a little backup singing, but I love any role where I'm contributing to the music being made. And I approach them all with the same amount of respect. So I don't hold anything as more important. I mean, I enjoy playing in a big rock band, and I love playing in this other brothers band because it's so powerful. It's intense, and I love that. But I also love being able to go out and just play blues and jazz on the piano for a small amount of people as well.
And what's kept you coming back to performing on the stage in whatever capacity you perform in?
It's the only thing I know how to do. It's been a part of my life, like I said, since I was a very small child. And I do a lot of other things besides performing. I do a lot of studio work. I've booked a few venues throughout my life. I have taught here and there. I don't teach on a regular basis, but I have taught here and there a little bit. So I'm always involved in music in one way or another. So I don't know that it's a matter of coming back around to it. It's just what I do, and it's been what I've always done. So I just feel very, very blessed to be able to do it.
And is there anything that you hope people take away from your shows and what you have to offer musically?
Well, in terms of the other brothers, because that's what we're focusing on here for this Caribou Room show, I just hope people come away understanding, like I said, the deep respect that we have for the music and the longevity of the music that we're trying to be a part of a continuum of, and the fact that we get on stage with that respect and that it flows through us with a real understanding of where they were coming from, and just trying to be a part of that long-term musical tradition of improvisation and power and the great singing and songwriting of both Greg and Dickie Betts and even Warren Haynes, but also to take away the fact that we're thoroughly enjoying ourselves and we love it. And there's nothing but smiles all around when we're on stage, and that's a big part of it. We're not taking ourselves overly seriously. We have a lot of respect and we take the music very seriously, and we're appreciative to put the work in that it takes to get up there and perform this very complicated music. But at the same time, we have a lot of fun with it. Someone I was close to the orbit of and who was a friend of mine was a guy named Colonel Bruce Hampton in Atlanta, in the Atlanta music scene. And Colonel Bruce was a very legendary, mystical figure who brought together many, many people in many different ways. He's actually the one that originally brought me into the Derek Trucks band. He also had a band called the Aquarium Rescue Unit, which was this amazing lineup of people, Jimmy Herring and Oteil Burbridge and Jeff Sipe and Kofi Burbridge. And Colonel Bruce, who I was lucky enough to be around when I was in Atlanta, always said he had a lot of great quotes, but one of his great quotes was, "Take what you do very seriously, don't take yourself seriously."
Well, is there anything else in general about the Allman Brothers Band or your other musical ventures that you'd like to add before we sign off?
Well, I always like to mention my website and direct people to my website, which is BillMcKayMusic.com. And that has a bunch of my music. I have 2 solo records out. One's just me and a piano, and the other is full band, all original material of mine. I'm just starting to work on material for a new record. There's also a bunch of videos and audio of a whole bunch of different projects on my website. All my socials are across the top of my website. There's my calendar that I try to keep updated. Probably have to get back on there and take a look at it. That has all the different projects I'm in and my weekly solo piano gig that I do down here in Arvada and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I do like to always direct people to my website. There is some of the Other Brothers music on there as well. And I need to put the link. There's a brand new Other Brothers website that I'm not sure it's quite finished yet, but I need to get that link out there. I don't know it yet. So that's what I ask people to check out, and it has all the different projects. I'll mention again that Netherlands concert series coming up sometime in August. One of the last dates of that is Bill McKay Band with Dave Watts and Friends. But to return to this upcoming Caribou Room show, again, I have a long time tie to Netherlands and Rollinsville and the Peak to Peak and the area up there, and also to the Caribou Room itself, one of my favorite places to play. And I know it's a little bit out of the way for some folks, but I would encourage people to get out to this Other Brothers show because it is a powerhouse of some of the best musicians, not only in the state of Colorado, but in the country. And everybody comes to this music and comes to the stage with 100% every time. And like I said, we have a lot of fun with it, but we take it very seriously. We're all very prepared. And I just think that we really do this music a lot of justice. And I'm very, very proud of this project and very proud to be on stage with all of these fantastic players.
Thank you so much, Bill, for coming on board and joining us to talk about the Other Brothers Band for the Mountaineer podcast. You can learn more about the Other Brothers by going to their new website, which is up now, the-other-brothers.com. As Bill mentioned, you can also head to his website, billmckaymusic.com, to learn more about his own musical ventures. The Other Brothers will be performing at the Caribou Room, located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland on Saturday, May 10th, 2025. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m., and the show, which features opener Phoebe Nicks, starts at 8 p.m. To get your tickets in advance, be sure to head to thecaribouroom.com. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to the first part of this Music of the Mountains. Of course, today's episode focused on Bill and the Other Brothers Band, but very soon I'll be back with the second part, which will focus on the opening act of this show, Phoebe Nicks. So be sure to come back for that. In the meantime, if you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and scroll near to the bottom of our homepage, or head to our podcast's main hub at the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com to see a full archive of all of our episodes. If you're interested in being involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, whether it's as a guest, as a host, or in advertising, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and or Barbara Hart at info@themountaineer.com, and we'll get something sorted for you. And finally, for all of our most important links, including our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, head to an individual episode description of our podcast, where you can also send us a text if you're interested in giving us feedback on the paper and or podcast. We'd love to hear from you. I'll see you guys very soon, bringing you interviews with members of Phoebe Nicks. Have a great rest of your day. The song that you are currently listening to is called Dreams. This version is arranged and performed by the Allman Brothers tribute group, The Other Brothers, who will be coming to Nederland to perform very, very soon. Be sure to head over to the Caribou Room, located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland, on Saturday, May 10th, 2025, to see the Other Brothers perform with opener Phoebe Nicks. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m., and the show starts at 8 p.m. To get your tickets in advance, be sure to head to thecaribouroom.com. To hear the full recording of this performance, be sure to head to billmckaymusic.com.
Pull myself out of bed and put on my walking shoes. I climb up on the mountain now, baby. Try and see what I can see. The whole world was falling right down in front of me, 'cause I'm hungry, yeah, for dreams I'll never see. Oh, help me, baby. Well, this will surely be. Can it be, yeah?
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.